It's been 16 years since the start of the MCU, and we're finally getting to witness Marvel's first family on the big screen for the very first time. Yes, this is the first time. There has never been, repeat to me, there has never been a Fantastic Four movie ever. And I thought that with filming of the Fantastic Four movie being currently in progress, I'd take a look at Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's original Fantastic Four comic. Not only is this the first time we were introduced to the Four, but this was the introduction of the current Marvel Universe as we knew it. Up until now, we had some of our favorite heroes in Captain America and Namor back in the 40s, but they were eventually tossed to the side once the World War was over, while Marvel started putting out Western books and romance comics. Then, Marvel's first family was brought to the world in 1961, roughly 63 years ago. Looking through this book gave me a different vibe than a typical comic. Upon reading and reviewing the series, or the parts in the series I could read, this felt like I was looking at history more than the standard story. Part of this is due to its presentation. The book was published by Penguin Classics with licensing by Marvel. It's a very thick book filled with the iconic stories from the original series. The thing that separates these Penguin collections from a standard Marvel collection is the presentation. The book opens with a foreword by Jerry Craft and an introduction by the editor of the book, Ben Saunders. It's like a historian was tasked in explaining why the Fantastic Four is culturally significant, and they nailed it. It's really well done. Even the cover makes it feel like you're looking at a piece of history, which it should. The store I got this book from also had one for the Spider-Man and Avengers. I chose this one because 1. I wanted to get more into the Fantastic Four, and 2. This was the birth of the current Marvel Universe. It's so weird looking at a book that was set up at a time before most superheroes in the Marvel Universe even came out, which reminds me of a little detail I wanted to bring up. In issue number 4, the very issue where we see Namor, there's this weird marketing tactic they did in anticipation for the Hulk's debut. The very next issue is even less subtle, where Johnny is just straight up reading a copy of the Hulk, which makes no sense, but hey, comics. The stories that were chosen to collect make sense. Not only are they the first appearances of some of our favorite Marvel characters, but the stories themselves are worth reading. Though they may be a bit dated in terms of dialogue and execution, they're still an entertaining enough read, and it's understandable how this would go on to be such a big hit. It starts of course with the origin of the first family, as they head out to the stars for exploration, only to return home with new abilities or, in some cases, a curse. Ben Grimm understandably remains depressed throughout the book because of his disfigurement. It also doesn't help that throughout the series, there are multiple instances where Ben loses the rocky exterior and he seems so excited to be back to normal, only to get it back once again by the end of the story, whether he wanted to or not. Such as in the case of the famous This Man, This Monster story, in which some bald bitch decided to take the thing's rocky exterior in order to break into the Baxter building. The poor man runs into his girlfriend Alicia Masters, excited to show her what he really looks like, only for him to turn back right into the thing as soon as he gets to her home. It's a goddamn shame for our ever-loving blue-eyed Thing. This book was the first time I read a pure Fantastic Four story. Prior to this, I knew of them through various media and other comics like Hickman's Secret Wars, where they played a prominent role. It's fun to see the dynamic between the family. Although, given that this was the 60s, don't expect a lot of character development from Sue Storm. Reed is still the adventurous yet kind-hearted scientist who loves his family, Sue is the average woman who has to put up with her husband's obsession with science, Johnny is the mischievous younger brother in the group, and Ben Grimm is the sad sack who develops a tolerance for his appearance as his life goes on. I think Ben Grimm's story is easily the most interesting of the bunch. Granted, he's the one we spend the most of the stories with, but I think it was the right decision. We also do get to see that despite being able to live a cozy life with the family, Reed does place immense guilt on himself for the incident that gave him these abilities in the first place. It's nice to see that even back in the 60s, there was some depth to these characters, even if it wasn't equally given. The collection I have collects only the issues where were important for anyone unfamiliar with the Fantastic Four, as well as for those who never got to see the first stories of the icons. It's here we see how Stan Lee's dialogue has changed over the years. Characters early on will say words like "bah" or they'll call young people lad, and it seems very dated. Yet, the further you go through the book, you see the personalities of the characters grow, and the way the characters talk will start to change into what we know. The same goes for Jack Kirby's art. His style evolves and gets better the further you go through the book, and you also start to see him experiment with other art forms once we get introduced to the famous Negative Zone. Though, every now and then, you will find a funny looking face. God, Johnny looks so cursed. It also looks really funny when you see how Galactus was really introduced, only for Marvel to backtrack and change his color scheme by the next issue just to make him look less dumb. Even with some questionable decisions, it's through this series and other Fantastic Four stories that I understand why the Fantastic Four is unique. While they can be labeled as superheroes, being a superhero isn't their main objective. At the end of the day, they're explorers whose scientific discoveries can result in them having to be superheroes. It's not their main job, but it comes with the territory. I also want to mention Alicia Masters, a character introduced as the daughter of a villain who would go on to be a supporting cast member of the Fantastic Four. Her presence and relationship with Ben Grimm elevates the story, even when her influence expands to other characters like the Silver Surfer. Overall, I think this series is a must-read, and this collection specifically is the perfect way to read it. You get the gist of what the team is all about, plus established knowledge that every fan should know. With that being said, I'm Jay Samra. Goodbye, sayonara, alvida, peace!